Hey, how you doing? This is Adam Post, publisher of more than 1,000 independent comic books. Today we have a lot to go over. Warner Brothers Discovery has laid off 29 top executives in Europe. These are HBO Max Originals producers. We're going to get into it. They also laid off 4 people at the OWN OWN network, started by Oprah Winfrey, actually a good friend of David Zaslav's. And animation fans are really unhappy with recent cancellations, and there have been a lot of cancellations. I can't even do videos about the cancellations of animation because there have been just that many. They're accusing Warner Brothers Discovery CEO David Zaslav of being a racist, Trump supporter, and calling for his firing. He's actually, I don't know what's in his heart, but I know he's not a Trump supporter. He's a Democrat. Warner Brothers Discovery lost $20 billion in market cap, trying to cut $3 billion in losses. Yes, $20 billion in market cap means their stock goes up, their stock goes down. Is losing $20 billion worth of stock value important? It is. It sure is. Netflix lost much, much more than that. So we'll get into that a little bit. I'll tell you what the straight deal is on that. It's, of course, a narrative to make it look like, Zaslav shouldn't cancel Batgirl because that's going to cost $20 billion. What a bad deal. All right, let's get into these articles. We have a lot of work to do. Hope you're ready. Subscribe to the channel, though. Click the bell for notifications and give it a thumbs up when you like it. It's a huge help to me. Thank you so much. Okay, this is coming from today's Hollywood Reporter. Warner Brothers Discovery axes 29 European staffers, including top execs. The layoffs come amid a major strategic shift for the company, which is phasing out its HBO Max originals in Europe and moving to a local commissioning model. A local commissioning model means getting their content locally. This is a strategy they already use for Discovery and Discovery Plus. They are very advanced. Discovery is very advanced. It's a fascinating company before they did the merger with Warner Brothers. So they've got plenty of experience with how to produce local content in different markets. They're in multiple countries already. I think they're in as many countries as Netflix or nearly as many. Very well managed and executed company. Warner Brothers Discovery has taken the axe to its European staff, chopping 29 in Europe. Among them, top programming positions Warner Brothers Discovery confirmed Thursday. Among the executives on the way out are Jonathan Young, Vice President of Original Programming and Production at HBO Max for Europe, Middle East, and Africa. Christian Wicklander, Vice President and Commissioning Editor of Original Programming for the for the Nordic region, and Annelies Servast, who heads up the studio's unscripted original programming slate. They are not afraid to let people go. And again, why are they doing this? It's a change in strategy. It's not that they can't afford to pay these people. The rest of the 29 employees, all of whom will be leaving Warner Brothers Discovery over the next 15 months, come from these executive teams. Okay, so when you have an executive, you don't just have one employee. You have a whole team of people wrapped up servicing and facilitating the work of that executive. They can get more done that way. It's like having an assistant. The cuts were expected following the merger of Discovery and Warner Brothers and the announcement by studio boss David Zaslav that the company was looking to find $3 billion in savings across its global businesses. In Europe, the layoffs also represent a shift in strategy for Warner Brothers Discovery's streaming services, HBO Max and Discovery Plus, which, as you know, will be merging. The studio plans to merge both operations as it rolls its service worldwide, and it's shifting its approach to the commissioning and production of local content. Again, commissioning just means getting a hold of and production of local content. Warner Brothers Discovery will stop commissioning European originals solely for its HBO Max service. Teams working on HBO Max European originals will complete their current projects before moving on. Going forward, local Warner Brothers Discovery teams responsible for both linear, which is to go through cable channels, that's what linear means, and streaming programming will handle local commissioning and acquisitions in their respective territories. It's a seismic shift for HBO Max. Original programming head Anthony Root, who had overseen a rapid expansion in HBO Max originals in the region, producing such shows as Poland's The Pact, Beforginers, Norway, Kamikaze, and Denmark. Root will stay in his job, along with Vice President of Scripted Development Steve Matthews. And this is to go to show you, they really know what they're doing. Zaslav knows what he's doing. You may not think he does. You may not know that he does. Or maybe you agree that he does. They're going to keep people that are valuable. But even if if they're amazing, they're going to stay. Talent is always worth it. It's always worth it when you have someone amazing. They much more than pay for themselves. So you get somebody great, you're going to keep them. But the people that you don't need as much, especially in a department that they don't need because they have other ways of getting the work done because of the merger, they're not going to keep them. It doesn't matter what their skin color is or how tall they are or even as many years as they have at the company. It matters how do they fit in with the current strategy. And this is just a quick one. Warner Brothers Discovery laying off executives from the OWN network, the Oprah Winfrey network, happens. So these were 4 key people. They were important, but not necessary to be kept. This is from Bounding into Comics, also came out today. Animation fans unhappy with recent cancellations, and now they're accusing him of being a racist, and of course, supporting Trump. Ever since Warner Brothers Discovery started cutting animation content from HBO Max, unhappy animation fans have been out in full force demanding the removal of David Zaslav from his current position as the company's CEO. Now, just so you know, that's never going to happen. The investors wouldn't have it. They are incredibly lucky to have Zaslav. He can do whatever he wants to do. He's obviously been given a free hand. See that hand? Free. Do what you need to do, David. You're going to be held accountable for results. That's what his investors tell him. One of his biggest investors being John Malone, the cable cowboy. I'm going to do a separate video on John Malone. He is a fascinating guy. Back to the article. This recent round of outrage against Zaslav stems from his decision to cancel several upcoming animated projects in service of his goal of cutting back on Warner Brothers Discovery's overall expenses. Now, there are a lot of expenses being cut here. A lot of stuff being written off. A lot of stuff where they're not moving forward on it. And some of it is woke-related content, but some of it's not that it's woke. It's just that it's not something they can generate money from, or they feel like it duplicates something else they already have, or they canceled 200 episodes of Sesame Street they pulled from HBO Max recently. Why would they do a thing like that? Well, because they're probably paying by the episode. It's a deal where if you cut it, then you can save some money. And when you're managing numbers and you're managing expenses, and you ultimately are going to, no matter how well you do, ultimately at some point in life, especially managing a business, you're going to have to be looking at the numbers and make sure they work. Because you can't just get more money from someplace else and say, hey, we'll just get more money from someplace else. No. The numbers have to be run really, really carefully, especially with this kind of responsibility. It should be noted that while these films will no longer appear on HBO Max, they are available to be shopped around to other networks. So this is now shelved from HBO works, including the films The Amazing World of Gumball, the movie, Bye Bye Bunny, a Looney Tunes musical, The Day the Earth Blew, a Looney Tunes movie, Did I Do That? To the Holidays, a Steve Urkel Christmas. That's one I'm going to miss. And Driftwood, as well as the Batman, Cape Crusader, and Merry Little Batman animated series. And, Merry Little Batman, who knows? That might have been a whole new category for them. That might have really created new licensing opportunities and things. It's not that he, doesn't look for business opportunities. It's just whatever you're doing, you can't pursue business opportunities when you're doing a new strategic focus. It's like anything that fits the strategic focus for Warner Brothers Max, HBO Max, that's what they're going to do. They're not going to go off in some new direction and say, oh, well, Batman's cool, let's just try this. No, they're not doing that anymore. And it is because they have the discipline of the $3 billion in debt, but also $3 billion in savings they're looking for. They have $56 billion in debt. But it's also because the merger, even if they didn't have all this debt, even if they didn't have all the cuts, mergers are incredibly disruptive when you put two businesses together. It's not just media. You have to mix the people, and people don't know, who's coming and going. The belief regarding Zaslav's political leanings originates from a tweet by Twitter user Brother Numpsay, who on July, what does he know? On July 27th, he tweeted a 2017 quote from the CEO wherein he asserted some of his business policies could really be helpful to America. And I think that the idea of having a Republican Congress, Republican Senate, Republican president is a good thing because now they are going to get some things done. I mean, Trump was actually, objectively good for the economy, whether or not you like his style. So there you go. I mean, we didn't have this kind of inflation that we have now. That alone is enough. Though many took this out of context quote as an admission that he supported Trump's so-called social views. In reality, Zaslav's words, which were made during an interview with Fox Business's Neil Cavuto and not as cited by the gentleman on CNN, were in reference to the benefits that less regulation and a smaller government could have for the media industry. It does help business. Less regulations and smaller government. Does the statement from a February 2017 interview automatically mean Zaslav is a Trump supporter? His 2020 campaign donations paint a different picture. According to campaign money during the 2020 election cycle, Zaslav donated $124,000 to the DNC out of his total $253,000 in political donations. His sole donation to a Republican politician is a U.S. Senator from Idaho, Jim Risch, amounting to $5,600. So not giving a lot to the Republicans. That didn't do a lot to calm people down because people are hysterical about this now. Here's an interesting tweet from Tory the Anti-Capitalist. Now Zaslav is taking away over 200 episodes of Sesame Street, one of the most progressive public programs on TV ever. Very interesting. It's almost as if there's an agenda to remove diverse and inclusive programming to further the conservative regime. Well, I don't think she's aware because perhaps she didn't hear in one of my prior videos, but those are old episodes of Sesame Street, not current new progressive social justice gender stuff. That's old stuff. And here's a claim from Ari Noble, Metajoker. In case people aren't aware, Zaslav is not only a Trump supporter, but has a disproportionately canceled shows by women and POC, people of color. He has hired 6 old white men, like me, in the top executive positions upon entering the company. Not only are his decisions terrible, they are made in bad faith. If you're going to erase merit from business decisions, including recruiting, hiring, canceling projects, any sense of what's going on, this is all going to just look like, well, what is the color of this person that was terminated? White? That's okay. Not white? There must be a problem. It's getting to be a bit berserk. Okay, this is from Sparks Feed, so you know it's important. Trump supporter Clint Eastwood wannabe, all right, that's funny, an all-around terrible person, David Zaslav has single-handedly destroyed the animation legacy that Warner Brothers spent almost 100 years creating. Shareholders should be terrified. I mean, I think the shareholders are kind of taking a wait-and-see attitude to see what happens. Yeah, there's more to this, and I will again hand it to Bounding Into Comics that did a phenomenal job of researching the story, putting all this together, and be sure to follow them on Twitter, but also check out their website, and you can subscribe to updates from them, which is what I do, so that's how I know what's going on from those guys all the time. Okay, lastly, Warner Bros. Discovery lost $20 billion in market cap trying to cut $3 billion in costs? What a dum-dum! You lose $20 billion trying to save $3? I mean, that doesn't make any sense. Well, of course, that's just an absurd narrative. This comes from Yahoo Finance, and I did laugh when I first saw it, presenting this as if Batgirl canceling a terrible movie, an objectively terrible movie, which there will be a secret screening for. No, you can't go. It's very secret. According to Hollywood Reporter, it's out there. The post-Warner Brothers Discovery lost $20 billion in market cap trying to cut $3 billion in costs, appearing first on Consequence. Okay, so this was first on their Consequence site. Since completing its April 8th merger, Warner Bros. Discovery has been in a cost-cutting frenzy with an announced goal of finding $3 billion in savings. No, they announced before the merger, not since the merger. They announced they're taking action now that they're in control. But they announced very clearly, David Zaslav said he expects to conservatively reduce $3 billion in savings from the combined companies. And that's understood. It's one of the reasons why you put two relatively similar and complementary companies together is to say, hey, if I have a building and you have a building and we don't both need buildings, let's get rid of one of them and save a bunch of money. Things like that. The process began when Warner Brothers axed CNN Plus on April 21st, and since then the company has shelved Batgirl, removed over 200 classic episodes of Sesame Street. You see where it says classic? It's exactly what I was saying earlier. They are older episodes of Sesame Street. And I liked Sesame Street as a kid. I thought I'm pro Sesame Street, although I can't speak to what they're doing recently. Haven't seen it, heard some weird stuff. I know they were pushing vaccines. Elmo was selling vaccines or something like that. But, the classic episodes, that's a loss, But, hey, if people aren't watching them, they ain't going to stay. They've also iced dozens of projects with the result that Warner Brothers lost $20 billion in market cap and counting. Now, that's ridiculous. The two, if you've heard the expression, correlation is not causation, meaning when one thing happens and then another thing happens, it doesn't mean that one thing caused the other thing to happen. Like in the morning, if you hear a rooster crowing when the sun comes up, the sun didn't come up because of the rooster. There's a whole different science. Back to the article. Importantly, this isn't an apples to apples comparison. Warner Brothers is trying to save $3 billion in cash, while market cap is the stock market's estimate of a company's total value, found by taking the amount of stock in circulation and multiplying that by the stock price. That is correct. And there are several other factors dragging down the stock, especially Warner Brothers Discovery's $55 billion in debt, which has concerned analysts since the merger. Now, okay, but since the debt has been stable and the fact remains that no matter which project Warner Brothers puts out to pasture, the stock is only going in one direction, down. I mean, that's as of lately. But the problem they have at Warner Brothers Discovery is when they decided to do this merger and they orchestrated this merger, Netflix was still doing great. All of the streaming companies were doing great. Disney Plus was, aggressively the brand new focus of Disney. There's been Paramount Plus. All these other streaming companies. Then the bottom fell out of Netflix a few months ago. The stock went down like a massive amount. I think it was 80%. Just got really destroyed. So they were already committed to do this merger. No matter what happened from the merger of Warner Brothers and Discovery, the stock was going to go down, unfortunately, because they made the whole deal at a price and at terms that assumed that Netflix and the whole streaming industry wasn't going to completely fall apart. The other issue is the economy is doing terribly. But on top of all of this, get that? On top of all of this, it was announced in the last quarterly report by David Zaslav that it looks like they're going to be making $2 billion less in free cash, in free profit, basically, earnings before interest and tax, before next year. For next year. So they're going to be taking in, instead of $14 billion, they're going to be taking in $2 billion less because of bad projections, essentially is what he called it, from Warner Brothers Media pre-merger. You basically have to take a lot of this stuff on faith. I mean, you can make projections about what's going to happen next. You never know what's going to happen next. Whatever happens is what happens. So that said, when that $2 billion goes missing, which had nothing to do, that's for the year. So like $2 billion less a year, at least for now. That has nothing to do with the $3 billion in savings. What that does have to do with is, with less income coming in, it's going to make it harder to pay their debt. And Wall Street is looking at them now, and they are concerned that their debt, while it will be paid, is going to be riskier and riskier, which means it's going to cost them, just normal credit cards, it's going to cost them more to borrow money. And that is, the more that it costs to borrow the money, for them to borrow money, is going to cause their profits to be less. So it does damage the company significantly. And that relates to the stock price going down. On April 22nd, the day after Warner Brothers subtracted CNN Plus, the company had a market cap of $49.5 billion. Okay, so I'm going to give you this article so you can look at their claims about how if you cancel CNN Plus, which had no success to it, none. Brian Stelter said he thought it was good. Other than pleasing Brian Stelter, it was $300 million in setup and $100 million in promotion that produced an unsuccessful, tiny little goofy streaming service, while they were also separately trying to promote HBO Max, which did okay, but not fantastic. So Zaslav looked at that and said, no, we're not going to keep CNN Plus with Brian Stelter and a lot of other people that are about to get fired, apparently, at CNN. So I'm going to give you a link to this article so you can check it out. Let me know what you think of all these things. I couldn't just do one video today. There was too much going on. Let me know what you think of all this in the comments below. I really appreciate it. I try to read every comment and make sure I comment on every comment if I can. I do the best I can. I hope you do subscribe to the channel, click the bell for notifications, and I'll tell you what, I will see you again soon with another video, and if I don't see you, I will miss you.